All right, good morning, everyone. This is Peter Kreisa. I'm the co-chair and founder of the National Energy Improvement Fund, and we're very excited to welcome you to our second session of our first Go Greener Academy presentation on helping contractors drive their sales and bringing in our expert VP of Business Development, Ed Matos, to share his wisdom and his charm with you. Again, National Energy Improvement Fund, and Ed, if you could advance the slides, that'd be great. Is the provider of financing, as you know, across the country for many different programs. And you may know us back from the AFC First Days, and we're honored to have you as an approved contractor. This is only for contractors who have the NEIF seal of approval, and that's all the good stuff that you're aware of. It's really interesting right now, and Ed's going to touch on this, that in this kind of rising rate environment, unstable economy, how are people going to afford to do the things they need to do to make their homes more efficient for winter and the fall and coming session? So that's where NEIF comes in with the financing programs that we offer our contractors that tend to be, let's say, a little bit less duplicitous than traditional finance company programs and really focused on helping your customers go greener affordably. So without further ado, I would like to turn the program over to the esteemed Ed Matos, who comes from a background, which he will tell you about, that is really on boots on the ground and in your space.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Can everybody hear me okay? Peter, Jen, can you hear me?
Yep, Ed, we're good to go. And by the way, we'll be taking questions and answers if you just want to use the Q&A section section on the bottom of the screen, and Ed will be able to address questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay, great. All right, thanks so much. Let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. We're gonna jump into this session here. So one of the things I always like to kind of start with before I get into any sales training is really my story and kind of my passion around this. So just a little bit about myself. I've been in the HVAC, home performance, contracting, space, in the residential space for about 12 years, and I started in the field. I started doing everything from knocking on doors and calling campaigns, canvassing, you name it. So talk about sales. There's no harder sale than canvassing. Anybody who's done it, maybe some people on this call, I say if you can sell somebody at the door, then that is that is the tip of the iceberg for salesmanship. But I moved into there, and I was selling in homes. So I've personally sold over 4 million in HVAC and home performance insulation type work. Also some solar as well at some point. I sold about 2 million in 1 year. That was kind of my best year. And that was an average job size of about, 11,000. So if you can do the math, you can see how many homes I had to go into. So I was fortunate from there to manage a team of SDRs and in-home salespeople, and I've consulted with other companies. So I kind of say all that just so you know that I really have been there. I still consider myself at heart, an in-home salesperson. And the reason I say that is because in sales, I believe that there is no sort of better true test than selling in the home. There's a lot of ways that you can talk about sales, but when you're just there, one-on-one with a person or with, two people, whoever the homeowners are, and you're trying to close that deal and get signatures and walk out of there, right then, there is no truer test. And so I've got a tremendous amount of respect for everyone out there doing this. And I've also put a lot of years into then taking my sort of, my training and the things I've learned and putting them into this type of platform. So I've spoken at, all types of conferences and done stuff with the DOE and things like that. So long story short, I've been there, I've done that, but I also really still love it. And so let's talk about today's session. So best practices on setting the stage for booking initial appointments. This is really critical, because what we're going to start with is what I call the beginning of the sale, right? So let's move to this slide here. This here is from a book. This happens to be one of my favorite sales trainers. So I'm a big believer in finding extra resources, right? You can't listen to, a couple webinars or a couple speeches and feel like, your sales training is done, right? So this is a great one. This is called The Accidental Salesperson. That's the name of the book. This is by Chris Lytle. He happens to be my favorite sales trainer. And he's got so many amazing tips and so many amazing ways for you to approach your business that are going to make you better. But starting here, he says, setting the stage, approaching the prospect properly is the key. Opening the sale takes more finesse than closing. Closing becomes the natural outcome of opening the sale properly and going through the steps in your process. So there's a lot there. I'm going to start with this last word here, process. One of the most important things is having a sales process, having a defined, replicable sales process for your team, whether your team is 1 person, 3 people, or 10 people. You have to have a sales process. And if you don't have a full process right now, don't get worried. This is something that you can define, you can develop. And I always say you can really implement a sales process within a couple months. Take some time. You might have a basic process right now, but I'm talking about a real fleshed out sales process. And I'll talk about that a little more, but you have to have a sales process to know what everyone's doing. That way you can properly track close ratios and things like that. If you want to have a consistent close ratio and know how to get better, well, then everybody better be doing the same thing as far as a process standpoint, or your numbers aren't going to mean much for you. So let's go back to this. Opening the sale takes more finesse than closing. So I always ask people, hey, when does the sale start? And I wish I could see you guys and get hands up and stuff like that. But the general answer I get is the sale starts, when you ring the doorbell, right? So in some senses, that's true. But really, for me, and what I believe is the sale starts much longer before that. It really starts, if you want to take it back further than that, starts in the ad and whatever marketing that you put out, but it really starts on the phone. So everything starts on the phone. And this is pretty basic here. You never get a second chance to make a good first impression, right? So what I call it is connecting our marketing to our sales. So as contractors, we do a variety of marketing, whether it's digital marketing, online, PPC, SEO, you're going to, home shows, events, you're in the community, all these things, right? You have truck wraps, all these things just to try to get people to call you and set up appointments, right? Set up estimates or set up, energy audits, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's to get you in the home. So everything starts with that initial call. So it's incredibly important that you have whoever's answering your phone at your company, whether that's a dedicated sales development representative or, the admin sort of administration person that's answering the phone, any of those people, we should have a process for them, right? We should make it easy for them. And that's when the sale starts. So what does that mean? What does that mean the sale starts? Well, you should take your time to engage the client, let them know what to expect, set the expectations. So I always say you want to build rapport on that first phone call. Take your time. There's nothing worse than calling a contractor. Hello, hey, how you doing? What do you need? What do you want? Okay, we'll be out there Friday at 10. That does nothing. You've done nothing to set up your salesperson for success. All you've done is, barely booked a time for them to show up, right? So the phone and this beginning part of the sale is setting the expectations for your client, but also setting the stage for your salesperson when they get there. So I'll explain that a little more. Build rapport any way that you can sort of break the ice, be really nice. I always say you want people on the phone that are upbeat, not beat up, right? So you have a good attitude. Third-party validation. You should be stressing things like, oh, yes, we work with the National Energy Improvement Fund. They're U.S. Department of Energy expert lender. So in our process, when we come to your home, we're going to take a lot of measurements. We're going to make sure we find out the right solution for your home. And we're also going to show you some affordable monthly payment options through the National Energy Improvement Fund. Right there you go. I just made that up. That's some script right there, but that's using third-party validation. If you work with any programs or home performance with Energy Star or utility programs, you should be mentioning those programs in that first call. So you should really have like a phone script that is followed, that is not deviated from too much. And again, you always want to start introducing monthly payment options. So now it comes down to selling financing, which is what we're in the business of doing, right? You want to introduce this on the first call. So now there's a takeaway of that person understanding, oh, okay, I get it. They're going to come to my house. They're going to look at X, Y, and Z, and they're going to provide me with some monthly payment options. And that's going to make it affordable for me. Okay, that's all they need to know, right? So you've set the stage. So what's really critical and important about this, though, is the language that you're using. So I love this slide. I've kind of used it a long time. It's just this, interesting abstracting ears and language coming through, but everything comes back to language. If we're not using the right language, if we're not using language that's working in our favor, then we're already starting to fight an uphill battle. So here's an example. So one of the things I really like to do in my training is actually give you some tidbits, give you some things that you can take with you and implement. I know everyone's busy. So again, this idea of starting to create a sales process. Here's an example of a fall, HVAC phone script example, right? So someone's on the phone at the end of this call, I'd say, okay, so great, Mrs. Jones, at the conclusion of your assessment, your home energy specialist will provide you with the right solution to make your home more comfortable and energy efficient. He or she will also provide you with a set of affordable monthly payment options so you can get things in motion to have your system installed and be saving money this winter. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay, great. So this seems simple, but let's take a look at it. Right here, when I talk about language, here's a big one: solution. So we need to take out, as salespeople in the home, we need to take certain words out of our vocabulary. Some of those one of those words is report, and that's a big one that's used in like the home performance space. We don't give people reports, we give people solutions, right? If you say a report to somebody, you're literally already setting yourself up for somebody to take their time and think about it, which is exactly what you don't want, right? So just think about, so when we talk about language, it's a little bit of sales psychology. Again, I wish I could kind of see you and you guys could, be more interactive, but one day I'll come see you in person. If you hear the word report, like what does that connotate? What does that trigger in your mind? A report is literally something we've been conditioned since we're young. That's something you look at, that's something you read, that's something you take time to look over and draw conclusions from, right? So if you're coming in with a report, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, oh, okay, great, thanks for my report. Let me read and look over my report and I'll get back to you in a week. Like, that's not what we want. We want to give them a solution that they're able to move on that day. So when we talk about one call closes, language sets you up for one call close, process sets you up for one call close. There's no one thing you're ever going to say that's going to just some magic bullet where, oh, this is it, now I'm going to close it. No, it's all about your process and your language. So no more reports, no more recommendations. I recommend that you do this. Well, okay, thanks for the recommendation. Let me see if I want to take your recommendation. No, we've come up with the best solution for your home. No more suggestions. Well, I would suggest, no, there is no suggestions. You're the expert. We've come up with the best solution to make your home comfortable, energy efficient. And here you go. I have some great affordable monthly payment options for you. So language, don't say financing, right? That word can come up. It's not like it's some horrible word, but we want to pitch it as affordable monthly payment options, right? That's what it is. There's no prepayment penalties when you start getting into it, so they can pay it off early. There's a lot of benefits for them to having an affordable monthly payment option, and you be able to sell longer tickets. So real quick at the end here, it says, does that sound like a plan? So now we're getting into something I call agreement theory. So agreement theory, it's kind of like I would put, I don't know if this is some, I don't know if you look this up in some encyclopedia, if you would, or whatever, if you would find agreement theory, right? This is kind of like a sales thing. What is agreement theory? The idea is, the agreement theory in sales is you want to get that person you're meeting with to agree with you multiple times in the space that you're there, so that when you go to ask for their business, they are agreeing to say yes. So the idea is, just like here, does that sound like a plan? Yeah, that does sound good. So you want to literally set yourself up for the entire time that you're there. I like to say, if you can get that person to say yes to whatever you're asking them 20 times within an hour, they're much more likely to say yes when you go to ask for their business. So when you're creating a process that creates a space for agreement, a really great way to do this is actually have a slide presentation. I'm a big fan of leveraging technology. So when our salespeople go in the home, they have a laptop or an iPad or a tablet, and you have some slides on there. Take a few minutes to sit with your homeowners, show them about your company, show them the equipment you're using. And as you're doing this, like, does this make sense? Does this all make sense? Oh yeah, this makes sense. Does this sound like something that would be good for your home? Yeah, oh, this sounds great, right? This is how you create agreement. It's very simple, just little things where you're constantly getting them to say yes, yes, yes. So at the end, when you go to ask for their business, what are they going to say? They're going to say yes. So these are some best practices with your supporting sales tools. You always want to leverage savings, rebates, whether the rebates are small or large, from our perspective, they're great. Again, everything is how you frame it. Everything is your attitude. If you're sort of negative about the size of the rebate within your tone, well, then they might be like, oh, I guess this isn't a great rebate. Doesn't matter if it's $500, if it's $1,000, rebates and incentives, everything is great. Hey, we're here to provide the best solution for you. We've got an awesome deal for you here today. That's the attitude you always want to have. I've seen so many salespeople have done so many sales ride-alongs where they're a little skittish about what they're talking about, or they're in their own head about the rebate, or they're in their own head about this or that. And that tone comes through. If you're not confident, if you're not excited about what you're presenting to them, if you're not excited about the solution, why should they be? So at the core of everything, us as salespeople in the home, we always have to be excited about what we're presenting. And this is, again, a classic line I used to say to all of my salespeople: if you're not excited, why the heck should they be excited? So here's some simple agreement questions. And again, I want to give you actionable, sort of tasks and ways to improve as salespeople. And so when we talk about simple agreement questions, creating a space of agreement, we call it, in the home, this is very simple. Does that make sense? So you're explaining something. You're explaining, how the AC system works, and how it's going to get cool air to all these rooms. And when you finish, say, so does that all make sense? Yeah, that does make sense. Thanks. Okay, there's your agreement. You explain something about how this heat pump is going to, use a lot less energy in the summer, and say, so does that sound good? Oh, that sounds great. That you explain how something is working. Does that make sense how that works? Right? That's almost the same one above. So you can see it's very subtle, but again, I would challenge your salespeople I shoot for 20 yeses within an hour, right? And it's natural. It seems like, wait, that sounds a little strange. Not strange. It's just how you operate. It's how you talk to people. It's how you continue to create a space of agreement. I like this last one, sort of a leading question. So let's say you're doing insulation, or you're saying, So you can see how if I air seal up above that room over there that we saw that's, you know, that has no insulation, and put a bunch of insulation, you can see how that'll really keep the heat, you know, in the winter and keep the heat out in the summer, and that space will be a lot warm, you know, a lot more comfortable. You can see how that works, right? Oh yeah, I can see that. There you go. There's your agreement. So these are actionable items. Put them into place, use them, challenge yourself. So when it comes to NEIF, one of the things that's important about this sales training academy and why we started this is we're creating a lot of tools for you as salespeople to use in the home. And when I say go in the home, use an iPad, use a tablet, you can even use your phone. We have this on our website. So as an NEIF approved contractor, we have a good, better, best option for you. So instead of just talking about financing, instead of talking about monthly, you know, monthly payment plans, you should always show your customers what the numbers are. So we have this, you can just pull, you can even pull this up on your phone. And if you do good, better, best selling, we're going to look at a 10-year payment plan, say 7,000 is the sort of base, and you have some add-ons, it's 10,000, you know, the full project that, you know, that we know you want to do right now is 15,000, and you can show them, here's your monthly payments. And then you want to ask, so I know it seemed like a little much at first, but 198 a month to do everything you know you need to do, does that sound like something that can fit in your budget? Yeah, you know, I think I could do that. Great. Why don't we move forward with that? It's going to be best for you and everyone in the long run. Okay, great. So this is an awesome tool that's on our site that you have access to, that you can literally do good, better, best pricing. You can change, you know, the amounts, the years, and everything. So please utilize our tools. And throughout this process, we're gonna keep, you know, stressing our various tools that we've created for you, and everything as an NEIF contractor that we offer is free. So one call close, right? I get this all the time. How can I sell more in the house? Well, first of all, like I said before, it all starts up front. You know, you have to have a process that lends and sets the expectations that people know they're going to be provided with a solution so they can make a decision when you get to the home, right? They need to be prepared to make a decision. That's why it goes all the way back to that phone script. And when we're talking about the fall, you want to leverage stuff like, hey, let's get you on the calendar. Let's get this done before winter. Let's get you saving money before winter, right? All that language. But when I talk about one call close, it's really all about how you frame it, right? Everything that we do is how you frame it. So I have another example of sort of like a closing line down here. Again, this is an actionable thing that you could put in place for your salespeople. So you kind of finish everything, and your salesperson in the home, you say, okay, so I certainly want to make sure you get on our calendar before winter. I know that's important to you. So that's everything with regards to your project and numbers. So what do you guys think? Does this sound like something you want to do? That's my closing line. So you couple language things, take out of your vocabulary. Interested, are you interested? Take that out. That is the worst line. It's the worst thing to say for salespeople to homeowners. Are you interested? Of course they're interested. You wouldn't be in the home if they weren't already interested. But when you say, are you interested, as a closing line, they immediately go, well, am I interested? They want to think. It's causing them to think. This is asking them to use, this is very subtle, but very pointed. It asks them, does this sound like something you want to do? Right? Of course it does. They've just told you 20 times, they agreed with you that everything you're telling them sounds great. So now you're just reinforcing that. And this is your closing line. They say, yeah, this does sound something like I want to, like something I want to do. Great. Let's pull out the paperwork. Let's get you moved. Let's get moving forward today. I'm so excited to get this done for you and get the solution in place to make your home more comfortable, energy efficient. That's how you one call close, is you prepare. So that's everything here for today. I know we wanted to save a few minutes here for questions. This is just a little bit, you know, more about NEIF. If you know, if you're in certain territories, you'll be working with either Randy Back or Chris Shelke. We have a commercial team. So even if you're doing a decent amount of commercial as a residential contractor, you have access to that as well. So I'll stop there. Do you have any questions, Jen?
Not that I see so far.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, you can chat them in the in the questions tab there. Happy to answer anything. I think I see one there, Jen.
Yeah, we have a thank you. Thanks so much, John.
Oh, I love that. Hey, thank you. We are going to make this available. This was recorded. This is going to be up on our Go Greener Academy website. So I would say this is a great tool you can use for your sales meetings. Our next topic is going to be on sales management. So when we talk about sales management versus sales in the home, two very different skill sets. So for all you managers out there, or business owners, I would definitely tune into that session next week. I'm going to give you a lot of tips and sort of ways to operate that'll help you manage your sales team better, lead to more sales, close more deals. We'll give another minute here for any questions. Maybe everybody's just ready to sell, huh, Jen?
I think so.
I'm ready. I would take a call right now. Put me in a home right now. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Again, thanks so much. The Go Greener Sales